Cavell drifted through the remnants of his scout ship, the cold void of space pressing against him like a living thing. Smoke trailed behind the wreckage, but it was not the fire that frightened him. It was the humans. He had seen war before, fought against countless species, yet nothing had prepared him for them. Their ship struck with surgical precision, yes, but it was their instincts, their adaptability, their terrifying calm under fire that truly unhinged him. They moved as if the universe itself bent to their will, anticipating every maneuver, exploiting every weakness, and neutralizing threats that no other species could even detect. When Cavell crash-landed on a nearby planet, he was alone, vulnerable, yet drawn irresistibly to observe. The humans moved through forests, valleys, and ruined cities with predator's grace, turning the terrain itself into a weapon. Every rock, every tree, every river became part of an instinctive strategy. Alien drones and scavenger squads that should have overpowered them fell into traps they never saw, destroyed without the humans ever seeming to lift a finger. Cavell could not comprehend it. Every move was deadly, yet there was no malice, only survival, honed into lethal perfection. He followed a squad cautiously, hiding in shadows, as they dismantled enemy patrols with terrifying efficiency. Mines triggered in precise sequences, ambushes executed without hesitation, the environment bending naturally to their advantage. One human raised a hand and redirected a charging predator without touching it, a simple gesture that saved the squad and left Cavell frozen in awe. He realized that humans were apex predators not because they intended to be, but because survival, adaptation, and instinct were woven into their very being. Days passed, and Cavell saw them face challenges that would have killed any ordinary species. They crossed frozen tundras, scorching deserts, and toxic swamps, never slowing, never panicking. Every environmental hazard became an advantage, every natural predator a neutralized threat. When a massive alien hunting machine approached, designed to annihilate them, the humans turned it into a lesson in instinctive warfare. One climbed cliffs to redirect its weapons, another lured it into narrow canyons where hidden traps disabled it. And within minutes, it lay in molten ruin. Not a single human had been harmed. Cavell finally came face to face with one of them. She did not raise a weapon. Her calm, unblinking gaze seemed to pierce straight through him. "Why aren't you attacking?" he asked, voice trembling. She answered simply, "We survive. We adapt. We endure. That is all." The simplicity of her words hid the horrifying truth he now understood. Humans did not need to realize the magnitude of their strength to wield it. Every instinct honed over centuries on a harsh, unforgiving world had been encoded into their actions. Every battlefield they entered became theirs. Every enemy underestimated them at their peril. As Cavell fled back to his fleet, the magnitude of the humans' power pressed on his mind like gravity. They were not merely soldiers, not merely warriors. They were forces of nature, reshaping every battlefield they entered with instinctive precision. The galaxy had long underestimated them, assuming small numbers, simple technology, or unrefined skill were weaknesses. But humans had survived death worlds, predators, and impossible odds for millennia. And now, in war, they were unstoppable. And the scariest truth of all was that the humans themselves barely recognized the full extent of what they were capable of. The stars above the alien planet shimmered as Cavell looked back one last time. Humans moved through the chaos silently, efficiently, almost casually, yet every step, every glance, every instinct was deadly. The universe had been warned, not by weapons or threats, but by observation. Humans were beyond predictability, beyond containment, and beyond fear. And the galaxy would soon learn the hard way that their strength, unseen even to themselves, was the scariest force it had ever encountered. By the second day, the human squad had expanded their influence across the planet. Cavell watched from a hidden ridge as small groups moved independently, yet every action was perfectly synchronized with the others, as if an invisible intelligence guided them. Alien drones scouted the terrain, attempting to locate and neutralize the humans. But every movement the aliens made was anticipated and countered instinctively. Forests erupted with hidden traps, cliffs crumbled to block advance, and rivers were redirected, channeling enemy vehicles into preset ambush zones. Cavell's stomach churned. The humans did not fight like any species he had ever encountered. They did not rely solely on weapons, technology, or sheer numbers. They used the environment itself as a weapon, their instincts perfectly tuned to every threat, every variation in terrain, every reaction of the enemy. He realized that no simulation, no strategy, and no fleet could adequately prepare for this. Humans did not just survive, they dominated, almost without thinking. A group of alien assault walkers moved into a narrow canyon, expecting to crush the humans with superior firepower. Instead, the canyon erupted. Hidden mines detonated, boulders collapsed, and electromagnetic traps disabled their targeting systems. Within minutes, the walkers lay in molten ruin, and the humans had not even been touched. Cavell pressed his recorder to his chest, shaking. "They are apex predators," he whispered. "Every move they make is instinctive, lethal, and unavoidable, and they barely know what they are capable of." Later, Cavell observed a patrol of 5 humans navigating a scorched wasteland where plasma storms had recently struck. They moved casually, almost playfully, using the storm's energy to mask their approach. Alien scouts sent to intercept them were caught off guard, funneled into traps that used the terrain, debris, and even the storm itself as weapons. Cavell staggered back in disbelief. These were not soldiers. They were living, breathing forces of nature, capable of adapting, predicting, and neutralizing threats without hesitation. At night, Cavell finally came face to face with one human leader. She stood atop a ridge, calm, scanning the battlefield with quiet authority. Cavell raised his weapon instinctively, but she did not flinch. "Why aren't you attacking?" he demanded. "Why spare me?" She looked at him, her gaze steady. "We survive. We endure. That is enough." He understood then that human strength was not measured in violence, but in their instinct, their adaptability, and their resilience. It was terrifying precisely because it required no effort, no awareness. They were unstoppable even without realizing it. The stars above the ravaged valley shimmered as Cavell retreated. The humans moved silently through the ruins, resetting traps, adapting to the terrain, and preparing for the next assault. Entire alien squads had been neutralized, yet the humans had not celebrated nor paused. They simply existed as predators in perfect harmony with their environment. Cavell knew his species, his fleet, and the entire galaxy had underestimated them for centuries. The humans were unstoppable, not because they wanted to dominate, but because survival had made them so, and the scariest truth was that they scarcely understood their own power. By the 3rd day, the humans had effectively taken control of the entire planet's terrain, without firing a single conventional strike. Cavell watched from a hidden ridge as humans moved through forests, deserts, and mountain passes with lethal precision. Alien fleets attempting orbital strikes found their approaches neutralized before weapons could even lock on. Rivers had been redirected into natural choke points. Cliffs collapsed to block access, and forests became living traps. Every branch and tree subtly positioned to funnel enemies into ambushes. The humans did not communicate with radios or signals. Every movement was instinctive, yet perfectly synchronized, like predators hunting in packs across the planet itself. Cavell's stomach churned as he observed a squad of humans confronting a mechanized alien battalion. The aliens unleashed plasma barges, expecting to overwhelm them, but the humans split into small groups, moving unpredictably, luring the machines into narrow valleys where hidden mines detonated and electromagnetic traps disabled their systems. One human leaped atop a collapsing ridge, sending boulders cascading down, crushing a series of enemy vehicles below. Within minutes, the battalion lay in molten ruin. Not a single human had been harmed. Cavell could hardly breathe. He had never seen such instinctive coordination, such perfect adaptation to the environment, executed without conscious planning. Later, he stumbled upon a human team using a volcanic fissure to ambush an alien reconnaissance squad. The humans had anticipated the exact landing coordinates, the sequence of movements, and even the potential reactions of the alien technology. Cavell pressed his recorder frantically. "No species has ever fought like this," he whispered. "They turned the battlefield itself into a weapon. Every instinct is honed into lethal precision, and they barely realize what they are capable of." Night fell, and Cavell finally confronted a human leader. She did not raise a weapon. Her calm, unflinching gaze assessed him like an observer measuring a curious animal. "Why do you spare me?" he asked, trembling. "Why don't you attack?" She tilted her head slightly. "We survive. We endure. That is enough." He realized then that the humans' terrifying power lay not in their desire to destroy, but in their ability to endure, adapt, and weaponize instinct itself. The galaxy had long underestimated them, and their true strength was beyond comprehension. By dawn, Cavell retreated to the edge of the planet, his mind reeling. Entire alien squadrons had been neutralized, orbital attacks thwarted, and yet the humans themselves barely recognized the scale of what they had achieved. They were forces of nature, predators of instinct, shaping the battlefield with precision no intelligence report could capture. The universe had been warned, not by threats, not by technology, but by observation alone. Humans were beyond prediction, beyond containment, and beyond fear. And Cavell knew, with chilling certainty, that the galaxy would never forget the terrifying reality of humans in war. As Cavell drifted back toward his fleet, he observed from orbit the full extent of humanity's terrifying efficiency. The humans had already secured the planet, yet their movement suggested they were not content with mere survival. They were expanding, adapting, and consolidating their mastery of the terrain with quiet, deliberate precision. Alien ships attempted to regroup, organizing new assault vectors and deploying more advanced drones. Yet every maneuver was anticipated, countered, and neutralized almost effortlessly. Cavell pressed his recorder frantically, documenting every tactic, every instinctive action, every environmental advantage the humans wielded. Forests had become natural fortresses, rivers channeled into lethal traps, mountains reshaped to control approach paths. The humans did not issue commands. They did not strategize in conventional sense. Their instincts guided them, each member moving as part of a collective organism attuned to survival and dominance. Every step they took, every decision they made was lethal by default, and terrifyingly, they barely realized it. An alien admiral, observing through fleet sensors, attempted to organize a decisive counterstrike. Hundreds of ships advanced in formation, relying on superior firepower and coordination to crush the human threat. Yet the humans were already several steps ahead. Orbital strikes were diverted with precision sabotage, ambushes on the ground destroyed deploying forces before they could even engage, and environmental traps rendered advanced technology useless. Cavell whispered to himself, "They are apex predators, not because they seek war, but because war is instinct and they are born for it." On the planet's surface, Cavell witnessed humans confronting massive alien combat walkers. Conventional logic dictated they would be annihilated. Instead, humans split into small units, redirecting energy beams with collapsing cliffs, luring walkers into concealed fissures, and using electromagnetic traps to disable autonomous targeting systems. By the time the last machine had fallen, the humans were untouched, moving silently through chaos as if it were an ordinary day. Cavell staggered back, his mind unable to process what he'd witnessed. Finally, he saw a single human figure standing atop a ridge, surveying the battlefield. Calm, composed, unarmed, yet undeniably commanding. "Why do you spare me?" Cavell asked, trembling. She looked down, eyes steady. "We endure. We survive. That is enough." It was then he understood the horrifying truth. Humans did not need to recognize their own strength to wield it. Their instincts, honed over centuries on a death world, had been weaponized naturally. They were forces of nature, unpredictable, unstoppable, and terrifyingly efficient. Cavell retreated to his fleet, determined to report, but he knew the galaxy would not believe him. Humans were no longer just a species. They were a phenomenon, reshaping battlefields, neutralizing advanced technology, and surviving odds that should have destroyed them. And the most terrifying part? They themselves barely understood the full extent of their power. Every star system, every fleet, every civilization that underestimated them would soon learn the same lesson. Humans in war were not just dangerous. They were inevitable. Cavell fled to the edge of his fleet, the stars reflecting off the hulls of alien ships as panic spread through the ranks. Reports flooded in. Humans had neutralized entire battalions, manipulated planetary terrain into weapons, and survived orbital strikes that should have obliterated them. Every fleet movement, every environmental hazard, Every technological advantage had been anticipated and turned against its users. The humans were not merely fighting. They were rewriting the rules of warfare. From the planet's surface, Cavell observed a human squad advancing into a scorched valley, a place that should have been impassable. Alien walkers and drones moved in tight formations to block them, but the humans did not hesitate. They split into small units, each instinctively navigating the terrain, turning every rock, fissure, and river into a lethal trap. Mines detonated in perfect sequence. Collapsing cliffs blocked advancing vehicles, and electromagnetic pulses disabled hostile targeting systems. Within minutes, the valley was cleared and the humans were unharmed. Cavell's voice trembled as he documented it all. They barely realize their own strength, and that is what makes them unstoppable. The alien fleets attempted to coordinate, sending hundreds of ships to flank and bombard the humans. Yet every approach was anticipated. Orbital bombardments were diverted into preset traps. Drones were shredded before transmitting reconnaissance, and even advanced AI targeting systems failed against human improvisation. Cavell realized a terrifying truth. Humans did not need to understand their power to dominate. Their instincts, honed over centuries on a death world, had weaponized them beyond prediction. One human leader stood atop a ridge, unarmed, surveying the battlefield as the alien forces faltered. Cavell approached cautiously, expecting aggression, but she simply looked at him. "Why do you spare me?" he asked. Her calm gaze held no threat. "We endure. We survive. That is enough." He understood then that humans' terrifying power was not in their desire to conquer, but in their ability to adapt, endure, and wield instinct as a weapon. Every battle, every trap, every movement flowed naturally from who they were. By nightfall, the alien fleets were shattered, scattered, and demoralized. Cavell realized that humanity's impact would extend far beyond this planet. Stories of their instinctive power would ripple across the galaxy. Entire species would reconsider engaging them. And the scariest truth of all was that humans themselves barely understood what they were capable of. They were unstoppable, not because they planned it, but because survival had made them so. And the universe would learn, slowly and painfully, that underestimating humans was the deadliest mistake any species could make. Weeks passed, and Cavell's reports painted a picture of a species the galaxy had grossly underestimated. Humans were no longer confined to a single planet. They were moving across multiple worlds, each environment reshaped to suit their survival, each battlefield transformed by their instinctive strategies. Alien forces that had once thought themselves dominant now found themselves disoriented, trapped, and systematically neutralized. The humans did not march as an army. They flowed like a current to the galaxy, adaptive, unpredictable, unstoppable. On a desert world scorched by twin suns, a squad of humans led alien drones into a canyon network of collapsed cliffs and shifting sands. As the drones advanced, hidden mechanisms triggered, sending rock slides and dust storms cascading down narrow passes. By the time the drones recovered, their systems were disabled, their formations shattered, and the humans had vanished into the desert unscathed. Cavell documented the events with a sense of growing dread. No fleet, no technology, no strategy can anticipate them. They are instinct incarnate, and they barely realize their own power. Elsewhere on a frozen moon, humans face a mechanized alien battalion designed for extreme cold. Temperatures that should have slowed or incapacitated them were weaponized instead. Humans use natural ice formations to redirect enemy movements, triggering avalanches that crush walkers while they move with effortless grace across the slippery terrain. Every instinctive decision turned hazards into tools and threats into traps. Alien Commander began to realize the horrifying reality. Humans did not fight with weapons alone. They fought with survival itself, and survival had made them deadly. Cavell watched from his damaged ship as a human leader stood atop a ridge overlooking the battlefield. Calm, composed, unarmed, she commanded nothing, yet the entire environment moved in harmony with her squad. He approached cautiously, expecting an attack. She merely looked at him and said, "We endure. That is all." He realized that humans did not need to consciously wield their power. It flowed naturally, honed over centuries of survival on a planet that would have killed any lesser species. They were forces of nature, apex predators in a galaxy that had long underestimated them. The alien fleets, once confident, began to scatter across multiple systems, their morale shattered. Every attempt to coordinate, every strategy deployed against humans, failed with terrifying efficiency. Reports spread to the galaxy. Entire planets defended by humans with minimal numbers. Alien forces neutralized without understanding how. Humans moving as predators, perfectly adapted to every environment and always surviving. Cavell whispered into his recorder, voice shaking. The galaxy has been warned. Humans are unstoppable, and they themselves barely understand what they are capable of. Across multiple star systems, the humans move like shadows to the remnants of alien fleets. Entire planetary defenses that had been considered impenetrable were neutralized with minimal casualties, the battlefield itself bending to their will. Cavell watched in disbelief as humans navigated asteroid fields, lava rivers, and storm-racked plains with the same lethal precision they had shown on their homeworld. Every instinct, every reaction, every movement was weaponized, yet they barely realized it themselves. A coalition of alien admirals, desperate and terrified, attempted a coordinated strike to contain humanity's influence. Hundreds of capital ships advanced in unison, hoping overwhelming firepower would force submission. But humans were already several steps ahead. Orbital strikes were deflected into traps, assault drones shredded before transmitting reconnaissance, and automated targeting systems failed in the face of human improvisation. On the surface of a volcanic planet, humans use eruptions, molten rivers, and collapsing cliffs to disable entire battalions. Not a single human fell. Cavell observed a single human figure standing atop a ridge, surveying the battlefield. She did not issue commands, nor did she raise a weapon. Her presence alone seemed to guide the environment, the terrain shifting naturally to protect her squad. "Why do you spare me?" Cavell asked, voice trembling. Her gaze met his, calm and unwavering. "We endure. We survive. That is enough." He realized then that humans did not need to consciously wield their strength. It flowed naturally from survival itself. They were apex predators, forces of nature, capable of shaping any battlefield and surviving any threat. Entire alien fleets began to collapse under the instinctive onslaught. Systems that had relied on numerical superiority, advanced technology, or tactical coordination found themselves outmaneuvered by humans whose reflexes, instincts, and adaptive survival strategies were beyond comprehension. Cavell documented every move, knowing that no one would believe the reality he had witnessed. Humans were unstoppable, not because they sought domination, but because survival had made them so. And the scariest part of all, they barely understood their own power. As the last alien ships fled into deep space, humans moved silently through the devastated planets, repairing what needed repair, reinforcing what mattered, and preparing for the next challenge. The galaxy had been warned. Humanity was no longer just a species. It was an unstoppable force, instinctive and adaptive, and every civilization that had underestimated them would learn the consequences. Cavell whispered into his recorder one final time, voice shaking with awe and fear. "The scariest thing about humans in war is that they barely realize the extent of their own strength, and that makes them unstoppable.